Claire stumbled back, hand clapped over her mouth. In the mirror, her reflection tilted its head, eyes burning with some private amusement. "You're cracking," it whispered. The voice wasn't hers. She spun and fled down another corridor, heart hammering, breath coming in sharp gasps. When she finally burst into an open courtyard, others were there. 2 men, one muttering to himself, the other rocking back and forth with hands over his ears. Neither looked at her. Above them, Rousseau stood on a stone ledge, watching. "The garden shows you what you hide," she said, voice echoing against the walls. "Do not fear it. Fear is only another mask." Claire's chest heaved. She wanted to scream that it wasn't a mask, that the mirror had moved on its own. But something in Rousseau's eyes silenced her. Something like hunger. By the time they returned inside, Claire's legs shook with exhaustion. She collapsed on her bed, trying to convince herself she'd imagined the whisper, the smile, the words. But when she looked at the mirror above the sink, she thought, just for a heartbeat, that it winked. That night, the knocking came again. 3 taps. Pause. 2 taps. She pressed her palm to the wall. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. The answer came, 1 tap. Then silence. Her skin crawled. "Do you know what the garden is?" Silence. "Do you know who she is?" Rousseau. 2 taps. Claire's throat tightened. "Is she dangerous?" 1. Hard. The sound reverberated through the plaster like a gunshot. Claire pulled her hand away. Later, as she lay staring at the ceiling, she thought she heard a voice through the wall. A woman's voice, low and ragged, singing something she couldn't understand. The melody clawed at her chest. A lullaby, but wrong somehow, sour in its sweetness. She pressed the pillow over her head and prayed for morning. The next day brought another session. This time, Rousseau didn't come. It was the man in the glasses, the one with the pad. He led her down a narrow hallway she hadn't seen before, walls narrowing the farther they went. At the end was a small chamber with a single chair and a ring of lights overhead. "Sit," he said. Claire obeyed, nerves jangling. The lights buzzed softly. "Close your eyes," he said. She hesitated. "What?" To listen. Something in his voice left no room for refusal. She closed her eyes. At first, only silence. Then a faint hum, low, pulsing, vibrating against her skull. "Do you hear it?" the man asked. "Yes," she whispered. "Good. Listen closer." The hum deepened. Words bled from it, soft, indistinct. Her mind scrambled to make sense of them. "You are weak. You are broken. You are nothing without us." Her eyes flew open. The room was empty. The man was gone. Only the lights glared overhead. The hum stopped. Claire stumbled to her feet, chest heaving. She pressed against the wall until she found the door and shoved it open. The corridor outside was dark, silent. She ran, not caring which way. When she finally found her room again, she locked the door and collapsed against it. And for the first time since arriving on the island, she cried. The next note came the following morning. This one was slipped into her shoe, neat as a pressed flower. "They want to hollow you out. Don't let them. Meet me in the chapel at midnight." Claire folded the note into her fist, heart pounding. A chapel. So there was a place for prayer here, too. Another mask. Another layer. She told herself she shouldn't go, that it was too dangerous, that she'd be caught. But as the day crawled by, her mind kept circling back to the garden, to the mirror, to the voice in the wall. By nightfall, she had already decided. At midnight, she crept through the halls, each step echoing too loud. The portraits seemed to watch her. The chapel was easy to find, an arched doorway at the end of a narrow hall. Inside, rows of wooden pews faced a simple altar where a crucifix loomed in the shadows. The pale woman was waiting in the front pew. "You came," she whispered. Relief softened her features. "What is this place?" Claire demanded, voice trembling. "Tell me the truth." The woman's hands trembled in her lap. "They strip us down, peel away the layers. Make us see things. Things no mind should see. They call it healing, but it's breaking. That's all it is. Breaking. Her eyes glittered with tears. Some of us don't come back from the garden. Claire's breath hitched. The woman leaned close, voice dropping lower. There's more beneath. Tunnels, rooms. That's where they keep the worst of it. If you want answers, that's where they'll be. Before Claire could ask more, a sound cut through the chapel. A slow clap. From the shadows near the altar, Rousseau stepped forward. Her smile was wide, her eyes cold. "My darlings," she said, "breaking is not the end. Breaking is where we begin." Chapter 4. The Chapel of Masks. The silence after Rousseau's clap stretched long enough to squeeze Claire's chest tight. The pale woman beside her shuddered and bowed her head, as if waiting for punishment. Claire, frozen in the pew, stared at Rousseau's pale, knife-sharp smile and wondered whether running was even an option. "You think you can hide secrets in the house of God?" Rousseau asked softly. Her heels clicked against the stone as she moved down the aisle, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "No, my darlings. The chapel is where the masks come off, where truth is laid bare." Claire's throat felt scorched. "What do you want from us?" Rousseau's smile didn't waver. "Not from you. For you." The pale woman let out a broken laugh. "Lies," she muttered. "All lies." Rousseau turned her gaze on her, and in that instant Claire understood why the residents avoided eye contact at meals. Rousseau's stare was suffocating, like being pinned beneath a sheet of glass. "You know what happens to liars," Rousseau said. The pale woman's shoulders hunched, her fingers clawing into the wood of the pew. Then Rousseau raised her hands and clapped once. The sound echoed through the chapel like a gunshot. Two figures appeared from shadows. Men in white coats. Orderlies. Claire hadn't seen them enter, hadn't heard them move. They descended on the pale woman, one gripping each arm, lifting her from the pew like a doll. "No," the woman whispered, voice thin with terror. "Please, not the tunnels. Not again." Claire lurched to her feet. "Stop. Leave her alone." Rousseau held up a hand, and the orderlies froze mid-step. "Madame Duval," she said smoothly, "your compassion is touching, truly, but you must learn compassion without discipline is chaos. She hasn't done anything. She has done the only unforgivable thing." Rousseau's smile sharpened. "She has planted doubt." The orderlies dragged the pale woman toward the altar. She struggled weakly, sobbing now, words tumbling from her mouth that Claire couldn't catch. The great crucifix loomed above, Christ's head bowed in eternal agony. Claire couldn't move, her legs locked in place. The chapel doors slammed shut behind her. When she turned back, Rousseau was directly in front of her. Claire hadn't seen her cross the aisle. She was simply there, close enough that Claire could smell her perfume. Lavender, yes, but cloying, almost rotten underneath. "You want to survive here?" Rousseau whispered. "Then stop asking questions. Stop looking for cracks. Cracks let the dark inside." Her hand, cold and dry, touched Claire's cheek. For a heartbeat, Claire felt dizzy, as if her thoughts were being pulled like thread from a spool. She jerked back. Rousseau's smile widened. "Good. Resistance. That will make your breaking so much more profound." She turned to the orderlies. "Take her away." Claire's stomach dropped. For one wild second, she thought Rousseau meant her. But the orderlies were dragging the pale woman toward a small side door behind the altar. The woman looked back, eyes wide with a hopeless, pleading light. Then the door closed behind her. The chapel was silent again. Rousseau turned. "Go back to your room, Madame Duval. Rest. You will need it." Her smile was the last thing Claire saw before she fled. Back in her room, Claire locked the door, shoved a chair against it, then collapsed onto the bed. Her body shook so hard the mattress squealed beneath her. The tunnels, the pale woman had said. Claire could still hear her voice, that desperate plea. And Rousseau's answer, breaking wasn't the end, it was the beginning. She buried her face in the pillow, and tried to smother the sound of her own sobs. Sleep came in fits, jagged and broken. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw the mirror in the garden, her reflection smiling as if it knew this ending all along. The next day, the pale woman was gone. Not at breakfast, not in the courtyard, not anywhere. No one mentioned her. Not the gray-bearded man, not the others. It was as if she had never existed. When Claire tried to ask, the gray-bearded man shook his head quickly, spoon trembling in his grip. "You don't want to know," he muttered. "You don't want to end up where she did." Claire leaned closer. "Where did they take her? What's in the tunnels?" His watery eyes flicked toward Rousseau, who stood at the head table, slicing a pear with slow, precise motions. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't even think it. That's how they pull you under." Claire wanted to scream. Instead, she ate her porridge in silence, feeling Rousseau's eyes sweep the room like a searchlight. Later, Claire found herself drawn to the window. She cracked the shutter, peered into the courtyard. That was when she saw them. 2 orderlies dragging a bundle wrapped in white cloth. It was limp, too heavy to be laundry. The bundle's shape caught the sunlight, an arm jutting awkwardly beneath the fabric. They carried it toward the garden gate. The vines rustled as the iron clanged open. When it closed, the courtyard was empty again. Claire staggered back from the window, ball rising in her throat. They weren't healing anyone here. They were erasing them. That night, the knocking came again. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more. Faster this time, urgent. Claire pressed her palm to the wall. "Who are you?" Silence. Were you the one singing?" "One knock." Her throat tightened. "Do you know what happened to the woman? The one from the fountain?" "One knock." "Is she..." She couldn't say the word. Couldn't force it out. 2 knocks. Not dead, then, but not alive either. Somewhere else. Claire's stomach twisted. In the tunnels? 1 hard knock. She pulled her hand away, clutching it to her chest. The wall seemed to breathe, faintly, or maybe it was just her imagination. The following afternoon, Rousseau summoned Claire to her office. It was a grand room, with high ceilings and shelves lined with leather-bound books. The air smelled of polish and something faintly metallic. Rousseau gestured to a chair. "Sit." Claire sat, forcing herself not to tremble. Rousseau folded her hands on the desk. "You have spirit, Madame Duval. That pleases me. But spirit without guidance is dangerous. It corrodes the order we build here." Claire met her eyes, though it felt like staring into a pit. "Order? You mean control?" Rousseau's smile sharpened. "Ah, the fire. I wondered when it would show." She leaned forward, voice dropping. "Do you know why we are here, on this island, away from the world?" Claire shook her head. "Because the world fears truth. Out there, you are told what to believe, who to be, what to feel. Here, we strip that away. We conduct experiments not to break you, but to free you." Claire's laugh came out harsh, bitter. "Free us? You drag people away. You erase them." Rousseau's eyes glittered. "No, my dear. We refine them. Some cannot bear the process. They fall apart. But others transcend." She stood, moving to the window. Sunlight painted her face in pale gold. "Do you know what it means to transcend, Madame Duval? To shed the husk of the self, until only the core remains? That is the gift paradise offers. But only if you are strong enough." Claire's skin prickled. "And if I'm not?" Rousseau turned back, smile widening. "Then the tunnels will have you." That night, Claire couldn't stop thinking of the tunnels. The pale woman screams. The bundle was carried into the garden. Rousseau's smile. Her skin itched with restlessness. She had to see for herself. After lights out, she slipped into the hall, heart pounding, every creak of the floorboards echoing like a gunshot. She moved toward the chapel, toward the door behind the altar. The chapel was dark, a crucifix looming above like a shadowed sentinel. Claire crept down the aisle, breath shallow, and reached the small side door. It wasn't locked. She pulled it open and stepped into darkness. The air was colder here, damp and heavy. A staircase spiraled downward, each step slick with moisture. Claire descended slowly, hand trailing the rough stone wall. At the bottom lay a corridor, lit by dim bulbs strung along the ceiling. The walls here weren't polished stone but raw rock, jagged and wet. Doors lined the corridor. Some were metal with small barred windows. From behind them came sounds, whispers, sobs, the scrape of nails against steel. Claire's chest tightened. She moved closer to one of the doors. Through the small window, she glimpsed a figure hunched in the corner. Thin, hair hanging in clumps, eyes wide and hollow. The pale woman. Claire's breath caught. She reached for the handle, but the door was locked. The woman's lips moved soundlessly. Then her eyes flicked upward. Claire followed her gaze. A camera blinked red above the door. Claire staggered back. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy, deliberate. She turned, heart leaping in her throat. Rousseau stood at the far end of the hall, white dress glowing under the bulbs, smiling sharp as a blade. "You see," she said softly, "the tunnels are truth. And truth, my darling, is unavoidable." Chapter 5. The Tunnels Beneath. The air was thick with damp stone and mildew. Claire's lungs burned, as if the tunnels themselves were squeezing the breath out of her. Rousseau stood at the far end of the corridor, white dress glowing faintly under the sickly bulbs. Her eyes shone in the dim light, bright as coins at the bottom of a well. "You see," she said softly, voice carrying like a whisper in a church. "Down here there are no masks, no polite illusions, only what you truly are." Claire's pulse throbbed at her throat. She wanted to run, to bolt up the stairs and never look back, but her legs locked in place. Behind her, the pale woman stirred in her cell, pressing her face to the barred window. "Don't listen," she hissed. "She'll twist it, twist everything." Rousseau's smile widened. "You still cling to shadows, Madeline. No wonder you have not transcended." Madeline. At least now, the pale woman had a name. Claire glanced back at her. Madeline's eyes were wild, rimmed red from lack of sleep. She clutched the bars like they were the only solid thing left in the world. "Run," Madeline mouthed. But Claire couldn't. Not yet. She turned back to Rousseau. "What do you want from me?" Rousseau stepped closer, heels clicking on the damp floor. "Want? No. That is the language of markets, of transactions. We offer. You either surrender or you resist. Both paths are truth. And if I resist," Claire whispered, "then we learn how much pain it takes to peel the shell away." Something clattered behind Rousseau. Claire's eyes flicked past her. Another orderly had appeared, pushing a cart covered with a white sheet. The cart rattled as it rolled, something heavy shifting beneath the cloth. Rousseau turned slightly. "Take it to the chamber." The orderly obeyed, trundling the cart into a side passage. For an instant, the sheet slipped, and Claire glimpsed what lay beneath. An arm, thin, mottled with bruises. The fingers twitched once before the sheet fell back. Her stomach lurched. Rousseau watched her reaction with quiet amusement. "The shell breaks differently for each of us." Claire took a step back. Another. Then she turned and ran. The stairs seemed endless. Her legs screamed, lungs burning, but she forced herself up until she burst into chapel. The door slammed shut behind her. She leaned against it, gasping, staring at the crucifix. Christ's eyes seemed to follow her, hollow sockets deepening in the shadows. Claire pressed both palms to her temples. She was unraveling. She had to be. But Madeline was real. The cells were real. The arm beneath the sheet had been real. Her chest heaved. She had to find a way off this island. At breakfast the next morning, the dining hall looked the same as ever. Bland porridge, murmured conversations, Rousseau presiding like a queen at her throne. Claire's hands shook as she lifted her spoon. No one else looked shaken. Not a flicker of unease crossed their faces. It was as if the tunnels didn't exist. The gray-bearded man leaned closer. You look like you've seen the roots." She blinked at him. "The roots?" His spoon traced circles in the porridge. "Everything above is branches and leaves. Pretty, swaying in the breeze. But down below, that's where the real thing lives. The roots. Thick and wet and hungry. That's where they feed." Claire's skin prickled. "You mean the tunnels?" His eyes darted up sharply. "Don't say the word." He hunched closer. "They're listening. Always." Claire's mouth went dry. "Who's listening?" The man's hand shook so badly his spoon clattered against the bowl. "The walls." She wanted to press him, demand answers, but he shoved away from the table and shuffled off, muttering under his breath. Claire sat frozen, aware of Rousseau's eyes sweeping the room. Later that day, they herded the residents into the garden again. This time Claire lagged behind, not eager to face the mirror paths. The vines rustled overhead, casting mottled shadows on the ground. Somewhere deeper in the maze, a scream echoed, cut off quickly as though swallowed. The residents didn't react. They simply kept walking. Claire's steps slowed. She stopped beside a cracked statue of an angel, its face worn smooth, wings snapped off at the shoulders. For a moment, she thought she heard whispering from the vines themselves. "Stay. Don't go. Stay." Her heart thudded. She touched the vine nearest to her. It pulsed faintly like a vein beneath skin. She yanked her hand back, bile rising in her throat. When she looked up, Rousseau was watching her from across the path, smiling. That night, Claire lay awake in her bed, listening. The knocking didn't come. The silence was worse. Finally, she rose and pressed her ear to the wall. At first, nothing. Then faint, ragged breathing. Someone was there. "Madeline," she whispered. A pause, then a voice, low and hoarse. "They'll come for you soon." Claire's stomach nodded. "Why? I haven't done anything." "You've seen too much. That's enough." Claire gripped the plaster until her nails scraped. "Then tell me how to get out." Madeline's laugh was broken, hollow. "There is no out. The sea keeps us, the walls keep us, the roots feed on us. Escape is only for the ones who transcend." "Then how do I?" Footsteps echoed in the corridor outside. Heavy, deliberate. Madeline's breathing was cut off. Claire scrambled back into bed, pulling the covers up, heart hammering. The footsteps stopped outside her door. The handle turned. This time, the bolt didn't hold. The door creaked open. A beam of light swept the room. An orderly stood in the doorway, flashlight cutting across her bed. His face was blank, eyes glassy, as if he were sleepwalking. Claire forced herself to keep breathing evenly, feigning sleep.